Hi there, you little chicken nuggets. It's me, Carl. What's up? So some of you are finally coming out of lockdown and your lives are starting to go back to normal. Huzzah. How exciting. And that means we're going to be going back to church real soon. And with church comes the old greeting time. But things have changed. We can no longer greet each other the same old way because of germs and stuff like that. And we don't want to risk going back in quarantine again. That was rough. Real rough. I'll kill you! I'll kill you! Well, have no fear. Us here at Sunday Cool have put together a couple of post-quarantine greetings. And these greetings will not only make your friends feel reunited, but they'll also make them feel safe. And safety is my number 4 priority. Don't ask me about the other 3. Okay, I'll tell you. Number 3, eat more cantaloupes, stay away from antelopes. Number 2, if you have corduroy, wear it. Number 1, if you have AA batteries, keep them in your pocket because you'll never know when you need a AA battery. Okay, let's watch these greetings. Hey, how's it going? You doing good? You doing good?
Same.
Good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello, Andy.
Hello, Carl.
How are you today?
Good, you?
Good. Oh, no.
What's happening?
I think we are shutting down.
Oh, no.
I was just beginning to love.
Hey, Carl.
Hi, Andy. How's it going? Hey, Andy.
Hey, Carl.
How's it going?
Not bad. Can't complain. I could, but who'd listen?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, me either. Hey, Carl, put it there. Za.
Sa. Yellow.
And then I said, that's not a toaster, that's my wife.
That's incredibly inappropriate.
It's a joke.
Hey, Andy.
Hey, Carl. Chest bump?
Sure.
You okay? Let me help you.
Yeah.
Let me.
Hello, Andy.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Fine.
All right, good seeing you.
Yeah, good seeing you.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, Andy.
What are you doing?
I'm a dinosaur. Ah.
I get that, but like, why?
They ran a mask.
So you bought a dinosaur costume instead?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
Take it easy.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey.
Oh.
Hey, we're gonna do a little bit of an old song, a little bit of an old hymn now. So let's sing it. Oh Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. salvation and take me home. What joy shall fill my heart, then I shall bow in humble adoration and there proclaim. Lift it up. My God, how great thou art, and sing my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Hey guys, thanks for watching today. We have with us Riley Brown. I won't tell you a whole lot about him because he's going to share a story. We're in the middle of this series called Origin Story, where we're hearing from people and just kind of hearing where they came from and who they are. And really, the whole point of this is because the best way for authentic faith to be taught, I think, is just to see it lived out and hear from other people and hear their stories. So we're going to hear a little bit about Riley. A lot of you probably know Riley, and maybe a lot of you have known Riley forever. So Riley, tell us about yourself.
Well, I grew up here in Marion, Ohio. I used to live out near Ridgedale, where I just graduated from. But now we live here in the city. Some of you guys know that. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say. You guys, I think a lot of you guys in youth group kind of know my story, but at least, my family structure, I have my stepdad, my mom, my brother, and my sister. So, I mean, it's fairly average, but yeah, I have a very good family.
Yeah. So you're the middle sibling.
Yeah.
It's like me. And the middle siblings are the best. So
It's undeniable.
Yeah. So Riley, so you just graduated from high school, getting ready to head to college here soon, getting ready to head to an internship and then college. But we're going to talk a little bit about your story where Jesus comes in. Now, you probably have a similar story than a lot of students who are watching, but describe how you came to know Jesus, like your salvation story.
Yeah. I think one of the things that kind of makes me a little different from a lot of people who talk about their faith, and the fact that it wasn't really like one specific experience that I can think of that really encompasses my faith. It's really just a lifetime of devotion and trying to become closer to God. So yeah, I just think it's every day, I wake up and I just do my best to follow God, and that's but I can kind of trace it back to most of you guys know Pastor Kyle Lanham. He really helped me because you guys know he helped me a lot with my preaching and that type of thing, and Sawyer's done a lot. So really, for me, one of the biggest examples of Christ in my life is really just men like Sawyer and Kyle, just men that stepped up and really showed me what it was like to be a man. So
that's good. It's cool that you talked just a little bit about people who have come into your life and kind of helped you along your faith journey. So I want to ask you next is just maybe describe like some significant life moments where your faith was challenged. I think this is an important question because when you decide to follow Jesus, it doesn't mean life gets better necessarily. It doesn't mean that things always are great. And a lot of times Christians face hard times just like everybody else. So were there some significant moments in your life where
your faith was really challenged or tested?
Yeah, I think for me, and I think this happens for probably more often than not, the closer and closer I got to Christ, and the more I started to preach and do those things, I think really the worse life got at times, just because, the enemy attacks you more. He tries to get you off the path, and distract you from, what you're supposed to do. And, I don't want to beat a dead horse or anything, but a lot of you guys know my story, how my dad walked out on my family when I was like 13, and just kind of the repercussions of that. A lot of like work that needed to be done mentally and emotionally. It played a very big toll. And there's a point in my life where I wouldn't necessarily say my faith was struggling. It was just kind of stagnant. And around that time was when I started to have like a lot of, I don't necessarily want to say mental problems, but just depression, those kinds of things. And I was, questioning really, the value of life and whether or not I really, should be on earth. But then that leads down that whole rabbit hole. But the whole time God was chasing me, and I know that, no matter what happened, life was still worth living because Christ was with me. So.
A big part of your story does happen with stuff that happened right at your formidable teenage years, with your parents, and just life happening to you where you didn't necessarily have a choice in it. And a lot of times in life, things happen and you have no say in how it happens, and the way you react and respond to that says a lot. So on the other side, describe some significant life moments where your faith was strengthened.
I would probably say like the times that I was preaching, because sometimes when I'm like typing down a sermon or whatever, when I'm getting my thoughts out there, or like when I would lead FCA, it's kind of the same thing. And that you're creating a message, something that you feel like the people you know and love need to hear. But then as you're writing it down, and then once you get it done, you read it and you think, wow, why don't I listen to my own advice? And then when you start to internalize what, you literally just wrote down yourself, then it kind of strengthens you. So that's kind of how I've been, every time I preach and I would talk at FCA, just going over my own messages and really just looking at what I put down on that page myself just really strengthens me and gives me hope.
A lot of, I think, a tricky part about faith and a tricky part about believing in Jesus, following Jesus, and being a Christian in school, and I that can be tricky sometimes, especially when you have a lot of friends and you go to, most of the students we hang out with at the Grove, though they go to public schools, and there's not everyone are Christians. Not everyone have the same beliefs and values. I've noticed, you've always done a really great job of knowing what you believe in and living it out. It's always, you always see or hear about people, nobody ever wants to be that guy, but the guy that's, at youth group on Sundays, and then they live a whole different life Monday through Friday. And they, the things they say, the way they talk, the way they act, the way they treat people. I don't know if you can maybe speak to that. Like, what's the trick there? How do you live in the world of public school and going to high school and hanging around people who aren't like you? How do you wade through those waters and still keep your faith?
I think it's important to understand that when you're out in the world and you're ministering, even if it's in public schools, which is one of the best places to minister to people early on, it can get very difficult, and you can basically spiritually drown in everything that's going on, because you can become overwhelmed by everything, and you can lose sight of God. But you just got to keep on going, basically. But I think the most important thing to do is just to keep your eye on Christ. Continue to stay in the Word. I know it's hard, and there have been times when I've even gone weeks without like actually reading the Bible. I may have glanced at it every day, but That doesn't actually mean you're reading it. But so there have been days when I just kind of look at it. But if you really want to, stay close to Christ and be able to minister to people in school, maybe, on the baseball field or the basketball court, whatever, if you want to be able to minister to people properly, you need to stay in the Word. Treating people kindly. I think this world would be a much better place if people were just less, self-absorbed. We know, from Scripture, the entire Bible itself, that life isn't about making ourselves comfortable, about making us happy. It's about bringing other people to Christ. So really just do whatever it takes, as long as you're not jeopardizing your own faith and others.
Have you ever felt this, maybe like there's a pressure to be like other people, and like there's a pressure to fit in, and there's a pressure to want to be like the people that you're around? Have you ever felt that pressure, and like what have you done like with that?
So it's kind of like I said earlier, just keep your eye on Christ. Just remember to be like him, and you're called to be out in the world, to support and love other people. It's important to still speak out against sin without being blatantly hateful. It's possible, and it's very doable. It's just sometimes people will pressure you into not speaking out because they don't want to get offended, but you can't worry about other people getting offended. You just have to worry about letting them know what God says is right and what isn't, and they'll do with it what they will. But at the same time, you also have to make sure that the pressure of everything that's going on around you doesn't make you cave and lose your spine. So you don't want to not be able to enforce your beliefs. So there's a very fine line. You got to find where that is. Find how to stay strong in your faith without being pressured into just losing it altogether. And you don't want to be so rigid that you push people away.
That's good stuff, Riley. And I guess another question I was thinking of is, like we said before, there's a lot of people who know you, a lot of students watching who know you because they've gone to church with you forever, and you grew up in church. And we've got people in our youth group who grew up in church. We've got some who didn't grow up in church. We've got some who just started coming to church when they were in high school, and so there's all different kinds of like backgrounds. But I do feel like we do have a lot of students who grew up in church, and that may sound like the best thing, like the greatest thing, which it would be. But do you think that there was ever like almost like a desensitizing effect? Just kind of got desensitized to like the Bible and faith just because you were there so much. Do you ever feel like that?
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier for people who are new to faith to really internalize it and believe in it, just because, like, when you're a kid, it's it's easier to learn things than it is when you're an adult. It's the same way when you're a Christian. You can be like an infant in Christianity, as opposed to a wise, Christian who's been a Christian for decades. It's much easier for somebody who's newer in the faith to really get into it and start doing certain things that even veteran Christians have trouble doing, just because it's become kind of a routine, because they become stagnant in their faith, basically. So, because when you first become a Christian, you're on fire, you're crazy about it, and it's easier to do things then. So I guess just when you first start off, it's just easier to get into good habits.
You ever had a moment with like God where you decide like, all right, I'm all in. Like I'm just gonna do everything. Like forget the crap, forget the trying to be like everybody else. You ever have one of those moments where you just went all in with God?
Yeah, actually, this time there is a specific circumstance. This was around the time my dad walked out, and so I was like 13. I was walking around. This was back when we lived out in the country. I was walking around the perimeter of the yard or whatever, and the fields were empty because it was, a month after harvest, so there was nothing out there. I just kind of got on my knees and like was looking out into the empty field, and I was just talking to God, because at this time I was just kind of distraught and broken. So I was just, crying out to God for help. And ever since then, it's just been an uphill battle trying to get closer and closer to God. But, you know, we're going to have wins and losses, but I've just been trying ever since. That's kind of when I went all in.
You can say yes to Jesus anywhere. And I think the moment you're maybe even talking about is, you know, like what we call like sanctification, like where you just finally say, all right, I'm it. Like you're it. I'm all in. I want what you want, and I'm done with all the games. And so that's a good thing to remember for you guys watching. Like, it doesn't have to happen. You know, you can connect with God anywhere, which is really good to know in the middle of a pandemic when, you know, you're not having church all the time and you're not having, you know, the normal things in life. It doesn't mean you have to disconnect from God. So yeah, hopefully you guys got some good not only like encouragement from that, but maybe some challenges. You know, Riley, your story is one of a lot of ups and downs, you know, seemingly like the perfect upbringing, perfect family, perfect church kid. And then all of a sudden you get it, you know, you become a teenager and just everything explodes. And you could have easily gone one of two ways. Like you could have just, you know, forgotten about God and, you know, why would God allow this to happen to me? Why would, you know, and just kind of went your own way. Or you could have done what you did, which is find people in your life who will invest in you and you know, supplement what you are missing at home and help you connect with God better, and then help you to become a better, not only a better person, but a better Christian, a better follower of Jesus, and eventually, you know, even a better pastor, because that's what you're going to be doing. So, I think it's awesome that that this is one of our first stories we're hearing this summer, because maybe a lot of you, quarantine's been rough because your home life is insane, or maybe it wasn't insane and now you guys were locked up together. Now it is insane, and you guys, you know, there's a lot of friction between family, or there's issues with mom and dad, or there's issues with a sibling, or whatever it is. Know that, you know, you can look to Riley's story and know that God is still God in the middle of that, and He's going to see you through it. And just because things happen beyond your control does not mean that God is not still with you. And he does. He makes all things work together for the good of those who love Him. And that's kind of what Riley's story, I think that's what I see in Riley's story is something happened. He didn't do anything. It wasn't his fault. It just happened. And God took that mess of a situation and made something good out of it. And now you never know what part of your story will connect with someone else's. And hopefully someone connected with you today, Riley, hopefully. And I know, Riley, if somebody wants to talk to somebody, but they don't want to talk to me, maybe they don't want to talk to an adult, I'd imagine Riley would be your guy. He would love to talk to you and hang out with you, or pray with you, or give you some words of encouragement. Riley, thanks for hanging out with us today. And thanks for all that you've done and all that you're going to do to impact people with not only your story, but just with being a light and being obedient to God.
Of course.
Thanks so much for watching The Grove Online. If you need anything this week, text the number on the screen, and we'd love to get in touch with you. Let us know how we can help you, how we can pray for you. Remember, you are loved and you belong here at The Grove. Have a good night, guys.